Hello everyone, it is Friday, so it's time for another Friday read. This week has been quite an interesting one. I mean, you can see by the place I'm filming that my leakage is still not fixed. They're working on it, but still not fixed. But other bookish interesting things happen. The winner of the International Booker was announced, and it was quite a shock for me. So The Discomfort of Evening by Marike Lucas Rinvell won the International Booker 2020. And to be honest, I think that it was one of the underdogs of the shortlist. There were books there that were a lot more Booker-like. I think I was expecting the Enlightenment of the Greenwich Tree to win, although I think my favorite from the shortlist was The Adventures of China Iron. But at the end, The Discomfort of Evening won, which was a surprise. And I mean, congratulations to Marike Lucas Rinvell. But on another topic, let's go into the things I read this week. So I read 7 books this week. The first one I finished, I already talked a little bit about in the last Friday reads, and it's The Starless Sea by Erin Morgernsten. And this book follows Zachary, who is a PhD student on, I think, video game theory or whatever, and storytelling. And he finds these strange clues that bring him to another world, and it's all about him finding what this other world is, what is he expected to do in that world, and how does that connect to his family, and also in some ways on finding love while in that world. It definitely had very similar vibes to The Night Circle, so if you like that, you probably will like this. It was a fun read, but yeah, it was not a very memorable one, I guess. There was nothing wrong with the book. It was a fun read, but I mean, I've read it a week ago, and I cannot remember half of the things that happened in that book already, so it's not a very memorable one for me. But it was a magical, whimsical, fun read. The next one I finished is Amnesty by Aravind Adiga, and this book follows an illegal immigrant that has gone from Sri Lanka to Australia. And in Australia, he cleans houses as his job. And one morning when he's going to his job, he finds out that one of his previous clients has been murdered, and he thinks that he has some information that will help the case. But he is doubtful to give that information to the police because he's an illegal immigrant, and he doesn't know if that will affect his status or not. And this book happens all through one day. It takes place all in one day, and we follow him from the morning until the evening, and it has timestamps. That's how the book is organized, and it does a very good job in building up the tension of that balance between the guilt he feels about he not reporting what he knows, and the fact that he is always on this he's always on guard about his illegal status and his interactions with the police. And as the book goes on, you find more and more about this crime and how he is involved or he's not involved and what he could do. And when it's more and more clear that he could do something, but he still doesn't do it because of his status, you feel that tension building in himself all of the time. So in that sense, I thought it was a very well written book, and I quite enjoyed the experience of learning about his feelings and his his struggles. The next one I read, it's Hallo, witte, mensen by Anousha Nzume. And this one was a non-fiction. It was very short, like 100 pages. And it's about the experience of black people in the Netherlands. And it's, I mean, most of it covers topics that many other books of this sort cover. But it is framed within the Netherlands, which is something I quite liked to read, because I have read a lot of American perspectives, some British perspectives, but I have not read before from a Dutch person, and it was quite interesting to read from that perspective. And on that same vein, I also listened to the audiobook of So You Want to Talk About Race from Ijeoma Oluo. And again, this is also the same kind of thing. It explains different concepts of how someone can be racist in many different ways. And like I have read quite a few of these kind of books in the last months or so, and it doesn't, like, they pile up, and at some point they all feel like they are saying very, very similar things, and I don't know how much more I can get from books like this. However, I have to say that this one has a very practical take on the issues, so I think that was very valuable. The fact that she actually tells you, don't do this, do that, or things you can do right now, and stuff like that. I found it very, very helpful, and I think it was quite well written. So if you're going to read one of these books, this one is a good one to pick up. It just, for me, it didn't teach me many things that I didn't know already. Then next book I read is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal, El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone. This has 2 authors, and this one is it's an interesting one. It's a very short book as well, and it's about these 2 people, Red and Blue, who are sort of spies, or they are different sides of this time war, and they write letters to each other, and in that process they eventually fall in love with each other. And this I read for my book club, and I think we all felt quite similar about it, in the sense that being that short, this book has a very complicated world. It like they change times all the time, and they have 2 different cultures. So Red is from this very technological world, and Blue is from a very, let's say, organic place. And they are fighting with these 2 civilizations are fighting with each other for what is the better way to live in the world. And that sounded very fascinating to me, like the whole concept but it's not developed in this book. It's too short for that. It doesn't have the space. Also, it doesn't have the space to develop characters. It doesn't have the space to develop all of the normal things that you will develop on a story. And also, I think that might be intentional, in the sense that it wants to focus on the romance and the concept of love, in a way, forgetting everything else. But for me it felt a bit simplistic, because nothing was properly explored. It was just presenting this concept. And another thing that I found really strange, so this is written by 2 authors, right? And in principle, each one of them writes from a different perspective. So if you look at the cover, this one is blue because this one is supposed to be writing the sections in which Blue speaks, and this one is red because he is supposed to be writing red sections. But they all felt the same to me. I could not differentiate if a letter was from one or the other. I had to actually look at who is the letter addressed to and who is writing it, who is signing it, to know which perspective it was. So it was strange to me that two different letters that are written from two different perspectives and two different characters and two different people felt so much the same. So yeah, overall I found this book a bit lacking everything, depth, I guess. The next book I finished is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, and this was a reread for me. It was part of my reread project, and you can find my review. I'll link it down below, so you can know more about what I thought about this one if you look at my review. But I overall quite liked it. And then the last one I finished is The Shadow King by Maaza Mengiste, and this one is about the war between Ethiopia and Italy in the time of Mussolini, when he tried to invade Ethiopia. And I'm also going to post a separate review for it because I read that as part of the Booker Boy book club that Kieran from Katie Reads runs, and we actually buddy read this one, so I'll link to his review and his book club and my review of it below. This is all I read this week. I have just started Warlight by Michael Ondaatje. I'm like 20 pages into it, and so far it's quite interesting, I will say. So this one follows two kids that are they live in England, and they are put in boarding school because their parents are going to Singapore, and it's set in the 40s so far, I think. So yeah, so far I'm liking it. We'll see how this one continues. And some other things I'm planning to read. So I have been trying to do the history challenge, and I also link videos from the history channel hosts down below, but they have a bingo board I'll put here, and that I have covered already some of the prompts, but to cover some more, I have Mary Beard, Women and Power Manifesto. This is a small one, so it will be interesting. And the other one I have is Hamnet by Maggie, and this one also covers the last prompt I have for Heartathon, which is a book about someone that revolutionized arts, and this one is about Hamnet, which is Shakespeare's son. So Shakespeare was quite an important name in literature, so I think that will be my last Heartathon book. The other ones I did Starless for someone in education. I did Death's End by Cixin Liu for someone innovative in technology, and I did Me and White Supremacy for a book that challenges the status quo. And then the last one that I want to read next week is Nervous Conditions by Tsitsi Dangarembga. So her third book in this trilogy has been also in the long list of the Booker Prize, and next week in the book club we are reading the whole trilogy. I don't have the second book, so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I have read that you can read them as standalone, so maybe I'll just read the first one and the third one. We'll see, but I have the first one, so I for sure will start with that one. So yeah, that's a bit of what I'm reading and what I'm going to read. And then the last thing, since we are at the end of the month, I have my reread project, so I need to pick a book that I want to reread. So I have my trusty jar down here, and let's see what comes up. I don't think I'm going to make a TBR for September because because there are a lot of things happening in September, and I'm not sure how much time I will have, so I will just read whatever. But the one that came out is 1984 by George Orwell, and this is an interesting one to read after Brave New World because they have similar topics in a way. So interesting that it came out exactly at this point. But yeah, I will probably be reading that next month sometime. But for now, that is all. I hope you enjoy this video. Let me know if you have read any of the books and if you want to read some of the books, and if not, what did you read last week? And I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye!